Time now for sports on 104.7 The Cave. Here's Ned Reynolds.
Mike, the intern, Ned Reynolds, in the studio. Thank God it's Friday. Last night, the NFL kicked off their season with the NFL draft in Wisconsin. Looked like the Cheeseheads were having a hell of a time. I don't think they ever stopped the chant, Bears still suck, honestly. I think I heard it throughout the entire night until I went to bed. I didn't make it to the end, but I got into like mid-20s, I think.
It was certainly a celebratory night in Green Bay, and that's a good city to have it. It's one of the originals in the NFL, of course, and Lambeau Field is historic in its own right. And I think the fans really had a big time. It looked like a pretty good crowd. I don't know what the estimate was, but there were many, many thousands there. So we'll go on down the line now to the Chiefs. The Chiefs had turns out the last pick, not the Philadelphia Eagles. They traded up by one team to get that 31st or 32nd pick, whatever. But the Chiefs got the guy that everybody designated for them, and that's Josh Simmons from Ohio State. Now, he was only Ohio State for about a year and a half. Simmons had transferred to Ohio State from San Diego State. But last year, he's very, very good player, very good, very quick, and has good weight. He's about 317, 318, somewhere around there, and projected as the protector for Patrick Mahomes. Anyway, in the Ohio State-Oregon game last year, which Oregon won 32-31, Simmons sustained a patellar injury or patellar tendon tear to his knee, and that put him out for the rest of the year. So he's had plenty of time to recover from it, and I'm sure he has. The Chiefs would not have drafted him so high had he done so. Anyway, the fact is that they did get Josh Simmons. As far as the rest of them are concerned, Mike, it pretty much went the way everybody thought it would in terms of the players being picked. Now, there was a trade along the second one. Cam Ward from Miami goes to the Tennessee Titans. Everybody knew he would. He was the best quarterback in the country. The Jacksonville Jaguars and the Cleveland Browns made a trade. Jacksonville wanted Travis Hunter from Colorado, apparently more than anybody else, so they traded up to get him, and that's a big deal. Hunter is a very good player. He apparently got an assurance from the Jacksonville Jaguars that he would play both ways. That's what he wants to do. He wants to play defense and offense. Is he big enough to do that? We'll find out because, this is the NFL. But is he skilled enough to do that? There's no question. This kid's a great athlete, came over from Jackson State along with Deion Sanders and the other players who came over. And he certainly proved himself against big-time competition. So, yeah, that's a good deal, having Travis Hunter. Jacksonville, I don't know whether the Chiefs played them or not this year. I'm not sure. But regardless of that, he will be in that lineup and playing very well, barring any substantial injuries of any sort. Then you had the kid from Penn State, Abdul Carter, who's a Philadelphia kid, as a matter of fact, from LaSalle Academy. And he goes to the New York Giants. He's a big one. Very, very talented outside linebacker. And then the kid from Mizzou went in the first round.
Way up there.
That is Armand Membu. And he's a big right tackle who weighed in at 332 pounds. That's a horse, 332.
And he's like, 6'10", something like that?
He's big.
Yeah,
he's a real big individual. Anyway, he went in the seventh round. So, indeed, I think the draft pretty much went the way it would. There are, interestingly enough, a lot of players in there who most of the public, unless you're a devout college football fan, wouldn't know because they were mostly linemen. That's what was the big deal.
Yeah, and I think that is reflected in the coverage with Hunter and Sanders and all the lack of QBs in this draft class, because literally the first 15, 20 picks for either offensive tackles or edge rushers or defensive tackles for the most part. And to me, that's great. I think that was what this draft class showed. I'm super stoked the Chiefs got someone that really should have been in the top 25 had it not been for that injury. So we'll just have to wait and see how it plays out.
I think what's also interesting to me is the fact that the NFL didn't pay attention to the hype that a lot of the media folks gave to Shedeur Sanders. And we predicted on this show yesterday that he would not go in the first round, and he did not. So, indeed, we'll find out if he goes in the second or third rounds today. I think he probably will because Sanders does have some ability, but was he enough to be a number one draft choice? Obviously not, because he didn't get taken. Again, the skill players were really at a minimum in the first round of the draft, which is not always the case. But I think you'll see a lot more of them come to the fore now in the next few rounds. Their second and third is today, and then the rest of it is tomorrow. But I think you'll see more of them come ahead. And you have to understand there are only 7 rounds, so the NFL doesn't waste draft choices on anybody, not with only 7 rounds. Now, maybe if you had 25 or 30 rounds like they used to, you can get away with that, but not now. They're looking for players who can step right in and suit up and maybe provide some depth, if not starting roles.
Back to Travis Hunter. I know you said that he's talented enough to play both sides in the NFL. He's proved it in college, but I think it's one of those situations where, as a coach, you say, yeah, it's great you can do both, but you're going to have to give me everything from one side. Where do you put him?
I would put it would be a D-back.
Yeah, 1,000%.
And I think probably that's where Jacksonville will use him. But he is also a very, very fine receiver. He's very quick, very smooth, and he just has a lot of abilities. That's the key about him. But where he is most valuable, in my opinion, is on defense.
If they're smart, I think they start him as a cornerback and then use him in red zone situations, especially in those situations where you get in close and then you get pushed back, things happen, and you need kind of that space. He would be a threat in those situations if they utilize him that way.
You send a defender into the end zone on a short pass route, and he can stop him.
Yeah,
he's that quick.
And he's got that separation. So it'll be interesting to see how they play him. And again, to answer your question, yes, the Chiefs do take on Jacksonville in Jacksonville this year. So that I might actually have to I've got some kind of close family in that area.
They do play in Jacksonville?
Yeah. So
is that early in the season?
They haven't released
they haven't made the date yet, have they?
May 14th, man. I thought that was the other thing about last night. They had those 2 girls come out and making a big deal. Like, oh, my God, they're going to say a schedule. And they're no, we're just going to give you the date it's coming out. Like,
it'll be in May.
God,
I will
be
surprised if the Chiefs-Jacksonville game is on Christmas Day, though.
Well, hey, Christmas in Florida ain't it too bad of a deal. They did, however, announce the Pro Football Hall of Fame game, and that's in the end of July, which is crazy.
It is. It's, I think, the last day in July, if I'm not mistaken. It's in Canton, Ohio, and this is the way the NFL over the last, 45 years has started the thing with a Hall of Fame game. It doesn't really mean anything because very few of the varsity players are in this one. This is mostly for the young guys. But it's the Detroit Lions and the Los Angeles Chargers, and they will play in Canton, Ohio. It used to be, and I kind of wish it would go back to this, as far back as 50 years ago when the NFL champions, the Super Bowl champs, in this case it would have been the Philadelphia Eagles, would play the college all-stars. Now, it was never much of a contest, I will admit to you, but it was really a kind of a fascinating game because once every decade or so, the All-Stars rose up and won the game over the pros, and it was a big embarrassment. But be that as it may, that doesn't exist anymore.
No, it does not. Ned, stay right there. We got plenty of sports left on the docket, and I'll get to it down the road. Kansas City Royals had a doubleheader against the Rockies yesterday and really put the hurt on them, didn't they?
Needed to take both games and did take both games. Won the first one 7-4, second game 6-2 in the Royals' favor. Salvi Perez had, this is really pretty good. He had 2 hits in the first game, 2 very key hits, and then in the nightcap, 3 more hits. Now, Salvi's not a kid, and he's doing the catching, but that's pretty good day. A couple of games. Of course, the second game was brought on by a rainout the night before, but nonetheless, Perez had 3 RBIs in that nightcap, which the Royals win by a score of 6-2. 7-4 and 6-2, the Royals get a doubleheader victory over the Rockies, and that helps. Kansas City is now beginning to come on, at least in this reporter's opinion.
If the St. Louis Blues had just taken a couple of those goals they scored last night and just spread them around over Game 1 and Game 2, the series would be over right now. Seriously, it would be over. But, unfortunately, they just held it all for Game 3.
Well, of course, the future remains unseen at this moment, but if they put them in reserve for further on in the competition, it would also help. The Blues scored within 48 seconds of the face-off and had a 1-0 lead over the Winnipeg Jets also from the start. They scored again 3 minutes later, same guy, and the fact is they had a quick 2-0 lead. Blues had 3 goals in the first period, and that's really put it away. Your defense, of course, has a tendency, I'm quite sure, to fall flat after that. And the Blues went on to a 7-2 victory over the Winnipeg Jets. Well, Winnipeg still has the lead in this best-of-7 series, 2-1. But the next game is Sunday, and that's the critical one, in my opinion, Mike. I predicted that the Blues would win at least one of the two games. Well, they've won one. Could win on Sunday. That game faces off at noontime up at the Enterprise Center. And just up the road, the Cardinals are playing the Brewers. But over and above that, it'll be very interesting to see what happens, because the Blues certainly showed their offensive strength with a 7-2 win last night.
If they can get on the ice and give them that, or at least have that fire that they had yesterday on Sunday, I'll be a happy guy. NBA playoffs, we got any surprises there?
Well, the New York Knicks and Detroit Pistons played in Detroit last night, and the Knicks had a 2-point win in this one, 118-116, and New York leads that series now, as everyone expected they would, lead it 2-1. Oklahoma City Thunder go to Memphis, Tennessee, and beat the Memphis Grizzlies, but a close game. Oklahoma City had run Memphis out of the ballpark in Oklahoma, but last night it was 114-108. The Thunder win it, and you knew the Grizzlies would play a whole lot tougher. Still, Oklahoma City has a 3-0 lead. And the Denver Nuggets go out to Los Angeles to play the Clippers. Watch out for the Clippers. They are a very good basketball team. Clippers 117, the Nuggets 83, and the Clippers now lead that series 2-1.
And who you feeling right now is the dog in this thing?
In the NBA playoffs?
Yes, sir.
Who is the big shot?
Yeah, here's the dog.
I would have to think the Boston Celtics. They are still awfully good.
So.
And the Cleveland Cavaliers, however, they're both in the same division. So they would play in the next round. They won't play for the championship. It's probably, in my opinion, going to be, and I would put the Boston Celtics and the Oklahoma City Thunder in this one.
That'd be interesting. I'd like to see that. It's interesting to me though, because for a long time basketball has become just like the NFL, a game of attrition, and you see teams kind of set guys midway through the season. But since they've extended the playoffs so long, with basically letting everyone in with regards to like 4 teams, that in itself has become almost a game of attrition too. Because like as we sit here, Celtics, you're right. But it's just one small injury away from that all changing. And
Jason Tatum, their outstanding star, is injured at the moment, but that's still an awfully good Boston Celtics team. I saw one, Mike, and I'm not sure what the number was. I think you could mathematically figure this out. But in the playoffs, if every game was played, you're extending your season, I think, by 26 games. I think that's what it is. I'm not sure. I can't be held to that. But it's still, you have your end of your regular season, and it's a whole other season.
Yeah, it's at least a fourth or a fifth of it, which to me is crazy. But you know what? That's the sport, Ned. Have a wonderful weekend, and I will see you on Monday.